The Jeep TJ was made from 1997 to 2006, and I know that you probably don't care about that, but for me, based on my last video, I buy these things because they're getting old now. Some are like 20 years old and some are almost 20 years old with high mileage, but the 4.0 liter engine that comes with these Jeeps are bulletproof. They can go up to 200, 300,000 miles easily without a rebuild. They're really a workhorse, you know, and there is enough fan base that I like to build these things and make a little bit of money. So in this case right here, I'm going to show you a quick lift on a TJ. Now there's two types of lift. One is the Eco Boost lift, which is usually pucks that you put in there, 2 inches, 3 inches with shocks, and this one right here is an actual suspension lift, which is 2.5 suspension lift from rough country. I'm not going to show you the intricate details of what I did, but it's just putting in the springs. It can be easy or it can be hard depending on your level of knowledge when it comes to building something like this. Still worth some money. Done up, right? Stock, they're okay. They have off-road capability and they're very well supported by aftermarket parts. The very first thing that I do when I modify something is get a baseline number on stock form. And what I usually do is put it on the driver's side axle on top of the U-joint or the knuckles. There it is. It's reached 3.27, so that'll be my baseline. You want to go back to that. A lot of the Jeeps on the road are very darty. They have what they call a death wobble because of the fact that a lot of people just put a lift in and then they don't really care about aligning it or putting it back to stock form. Stock form is the reason why the Jeep drives the way it is, and if you don't put it back to stock form or close to that, then you're going to get an ill effect on the lift that you put on the Jeep. And by the way, real quick guys, if you are interested in a US made, assembled in the USA product, and you're willing to support a group like that because they're doing great things for America, then check out GeoGrid Wallet. You know, I recently did a review of the GeoGrid wallet, and GeoGrid is a minimal wallet where you can put up to 12 credit cards and still maintain that skinny silhouette. And I made a mistake in my first video about this. The clip is not for your belt. It's actually a money clip where you can clip your money there and have everything all together in a very simple design. The first thing that I do to lift a vehicle like this, two separate things, right? You got to remember that I do everything here on the ground because I lost my lift a long time ago, and I have no desire of going back and getting another lift because I know I can do this thing on the ground. So I do one at a time. The front first, because the front for me is the most challenging part of lifting a Jeep because of the certain components that's involved in lifting a Jeep like this. Okay, well, we removed the tires, took off the shocks, took off the brakes here so we don't stress it out, and then now I'm going to take off the sway bar. I loosened up all the arms, front and rear, so that's easy to droop this thing. I'm going to remove this springs next, and then put the new springs in, and then we will go from there. Old springs, new springs. It looks big outside of the box, but it's going to compress 2.5. That's all it is. I also remove the sway bars links, and I also remove the panhard bar to ease up the droop of the axle. I usually mark where the adjusting nut is for the caster for the axle on the inside, just to have a reference on where the original markings is at. You cannot put it back on the original marking because it is not gonna go there, you know what I mean? The pinion angle is gonna be different. find it. Pain on the ass, because still like things are normally. Son of a bitch. Once the springs are in on the front, then I lower the vehicle back up, put the tires on so that I can do the back side of the vehicle. Alright, lifted the front, the back still needs a little bit of work. Well, a lot of work, you gotta lift the back. But the springs are in, and that's what it's gonna look like. It's pretty beefy. Let's go to the front. Still got a few things I gotta work on, of course, not done. Gotta put an adjustable track bar or panhard so that we can center it, and then of course find the pinion angle, drop the brake lines, extend the sway bars, and that'll be going on for quite some time. Let's go to the back. For safety purposes, I almost always put a chock on the wheel opposite of where I'm working, just to make sure. In the back, like I said, the front is much difficult because of the steering components. In the back, it's still difficult if you make it that way, but it is not a bad deal because really all you have to do is loosen up the trailing arms, sway bar, and then also remove the sway bar links so you can droop the axle. And the back, like I said, is much easier. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that both front and rear, I removed both of the shocks because the shock is the limiting factor in the droops when it comes to the axles. Rear suspension. You know what, guys? If you're doing this, it's good to have a spring compressor. This is actually called the Widow Maker, but I've used it so many times, so you just gotta be very careful with it. Anyways, here I just took off the sway bars, unhooked the sway bars, and then the shocks, and then used a little pry bar to get it in there with the compressor, and it got in. So good to go on this side. Going on the other side, like I said, a lot of the things that needs to get done still is adjustable track bar right here in the back as well. I like to do those, and then an extended sway bar to make sure it's got some flex and rideability, drivability on the road. So that's it. Having a lift to 2.5 inches is a good difference when it comes to the look of the vehicle. I love the rough country springs because it gives it an even lift, even from the front and rear. I mean, there's no rake. 2.5 inch will fit you 33s or 35s. It's really up to you, but I wouldn't go to 35s because now we're talking about regearing the vehicle. 33s, you're running the limit of the power of the 4.0, depending on where you live. If you live in places like hilly places, you're gonna have a problem, not so much with 33s, but more with 35s. But if you live in somewhat flat or a little bit of hilly places, then you'll be okay, in my opinion, right? Driving down the freeway, you can still go 60, 65 safely with 33-inch tires. And once you dial in your steering components, you can go down the road just like you were in stock. So not a problem. Would your gas mileage suffer with bigger tires? Of course, but that's not the reason why we're lifting a vehicle. We're lifting a vehicle because it gives you an additional advantage when it comes to going over rocks and going over stumps and things like that. And also the look of the vehicle. That's the reason why we lift a lot of the Jeeps. Here in Hawaii, you can take the top off, have a lifted vehicle, and you look just so cool. You know what I mean? That's probably why there's a lot of enthusiasts that stick with Jeeps here in Hawaii, because of the fact that you can take the top off and have a convertible on the cheap, in my opinion. All right, that's how she's gonna look like.
Lift is in, tires are in. There are many more things that need to get done because it is a Project G, but we'll get it done soon and running on the road. But that's how you put a lift on a TJ. Took about maybe 2-3 hours with no lift, no two-post lift anyways, on the ground. Looks nice.
Look, I rarely do how-to videos on this channel because I get so busy and I'm just, I just don't like making how-to videos for the reason that I think it's cumbersome and most of us have our own way of doing things anyways. But I like to share my experiences and I'm sharing that with you in the case that you have a TJ and you want to lift it.